sense of soul.
Hey, Soul Seekers, it's Shanna. Journey with me to discover how people around the world awaken to their true sense of soul. Now go grab your coffee. Open your mind, heart, and soul.
It's time to awaken.
Today on Sense of Soul, I have Jon Chandonnet. He was on the fast track to success, earning his master's from MIT and leading teams to develop software and launch startups while scaling mountain peaks and running marathons. But at 33 years old, his life took an unexpected turn when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. For years, Jon lived in denial, ignoring his condition as he pushed himself to even greater extremes, eventually deteriorating his health and forcing him to embark on an 8-year-long journey to understand life's essential elements for vibrant well-being despite his illness. On his quest, Jon identified 7 foundational elements for creating one's healthiest, most fulfilled life. And he distilled these insights into the 7 Vibrance Well-Being System, helping others to naturally cultivate the vibrant life they desire with greater focus, persistence, joy, and ease. In his book, Shadow Summit chronicles his inspiring odyssey through denial, suffering, and ultimately healing and wholeness. And he's here today to share his story of how he turned his pain into purpose. So please welcome Jon. I know that your story is one of perseverance, is what I would say.
Uh, that's a great way to begin it.
Yeah. I'm from a family of athletes. You know, my kids were going to be athletes before they were born, kind of thing. My son also went all the way to his senior year. And I remember as a mother who sacrificed many things for my son and his full-time baseball schedule since he was like 3 and having 3 other kids as well. Always thought, wow, that would just be the worst thing in the world. You know, you hear these tragic stories, you know, they make it all the way and then something happens, an injury, and they can't play anymore. And that happened to my son.
Oh,
And then he looked at me at like 18 and was like, coach me. What base do I go to? What do I do? Who am I? This was the plan, which you talk about.
oh,
Do
yes.
you mind sharing, Jon, like how you became aware of MS and give us a little background?
So, MS, my first experience with MS was as a kid, a child. My aunt had a good friend with MS. And
Mm.
actually, I remember being in her kitchen. I remember her very well. And like, she was very able-bodied. She was like my mother
Mm.
or my aunt, and just working and being a homemaker and taking care of the family. And she had MS, but it came up on her in a pretty significant way. And she was in a wheelchair and pretty incapacitated. And so that's my earliest experience with MS.
Okay.
And so that's part of my story. Like, it's part of my experience, and
Mhm.
so that's a fear. And so there's a lot of fear around that. Like, MS is this big, hairy, scary disease. That's what it was. And that's what it was in my mind. Yeah.
So that was your picture of it.
That was my first recollection you know, of what it was. And it was something to be feared, and it was something to be avoided. And, God forbid, something I never, had in my experience. Hopefully not.
Mhm. And you were an athlete as well.
Yeah, I was. I was an athlete in high school. I played soccer, I played basketball, I played lacrosse. I played in college, and then after I got diagnosed, I was 27. And how do you deal with it? You deal with it physically. So, my
Yeah.
fear was my physical
Mhm.
abilities were going to get taken away. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to work the hardest I can to maintain them. And, I ran marathons. I ran triathlons after diagnosed. I climbed Whitney Shasta Tyndall. I did crazy mountain bike rides in the Sierras, in the Santa Monica Mountains. And all to try to, in a way, it was like trying to bait the MS. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. What do you think you got? What do you got? Show me what you got. Okay, well,
Wow.
it did. It showed me.
Oh my God. My oldest son is 27. I can't imagine, if that's you're just beginning your life, all of your hopes and dreams and that plan. And so you were like, this isn't going to stop me. And so that avoidance, I'm really good at avoidance. In fact, it's probably one of my biggest battles.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm always working on,
Yep, yep,
and I find myself always going back to.
yep. Denial is um, denial is a compensation mechanism. It's a way
Mm,
for us to try to bound something that's, you know, psychologically, mentally too much for us to handle. And
yeah,
so it's just too big. And it's and I don't know what to deal with it. So you know what? I'm not. I I'm not gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna say I don't have you.
Right. If I pretend it doesn't exist, maybe it'll go away.
Maybe it won't. And you know what? But there's something to be said for that. Maybe that would work because there are people who get diagnosed and then go on to live great lives and can keep things at bay, you know,
Mhm.
if they have the right protocol. Well, I didn't have it for the first 8 years. I found it, and that allowed me to have my son, and I found it for the next 10 years. But then
Mhm.
things came back and have come back. And so I actually started another healing protocol 10 months ago. Um,
Okay.
and um, I'm in the midst of another healing journey.
Mhm. Which kind of peels back layers, right, of what needs to be healed within too.
Yep.
Um, I've been through some healing journeys like that with physical stuff that end up, right, being the most deepest healing I've ever experienced. You know, can you just kind of explain what MS is? Because when
Yeah.
you mentioned something about energy seeking or seeping out or something like that, well,
Energy,
I don't, or
energy leaking.
leaking, energy leaking, that really, I find that to be very interesting. I found that a lot of the things that I've discovered that have been medical with me also kind of intertwine with my spiritual journey and energy as well.
Yep. Yep. It's all energy, right? I mean, come on. Right.
Right.
So
Hmm.
you want to know more about MS. So medically, scientifically, what is it? So MS is demyelination of the nerves. And so myelin is a protective fatty covering, an insulation, if you will, on the nerves. And what happens is um, the immune system, the body attacks itself for some reason, and it damages that myelin. It frees those wires. Okay. And so there's scleroses, so multiple scleroses. Those scleroses are patches where the nerves have worn away. And more technically, they're axons, which are nodes in the nerves, and those axons die out because they're no longer innervated by the nerves, by the process. And so that's what MS is. And MS it can lead to paralysis because there's patches in my nerves that have worn away. The signals don't transfer. Okay. And so, but yet my body still tries to send them. And so those are like energy leaks. I'm flashing energy, trying to make connection and I'm
Wow.
not. And so what I did with my raw vegan detox 20 years ago is I fed my body the nutrients that it needed to heal itself. And, you know, I'm no different, Shanna, than anyone else. Anyone can do this. It just takes a lot of focus, conviction, and commitment. And the ego gets in the way. The
Hmm.
ego blocks us from what we know intuitively is our right way. And and that's what the title Shadow Summit means. In the shadow of the summit is the ego. In the shadow of the summit, so in the shadow of the ego, is the truth that we need to serve our highest being. Like I was a corporate guy. I was a huge corporate guy. I was on my way to like making millions, cashing out, like living the dream corporate life, and but it did not serve my body. So I had to find a different way. In the medical community 20 years ago, they really didn't have answers. They had medications that could slightly slow the progression,
Hmm.
but they didn't have ways to bring the nerves back. Okay.
Do
And
they now?
there is ways, it's not as fast as you would want it to be, but you can slowly rebuild your body by putting the right things in it. I'm on a paleo keto diet right now, high fat, and I'm doing intermittent fasting. And, I've read that during intermittent fasting, your body creates stem cells, you
Mm.
know, and so, and those are healing. And how long that takes, I don't know. I'm not on any kind of timeline of, oh my God, you're going to be healed in a year because you're doing this. Okay, I don't
Right.
know. I'm putting a lot of faith in this
Mhm.
process, but I know it's better than the alternative, which has me slowly declining. And I know I'm getting stronger.
Mhm. I've had on a few doctors before talking about stem cell, therapy. One was his son had a rare disease, and it was through the cells, I want to say from a placenta.
Right, which would be stem cells.
Yeah. And then there was another doctor who also had come on and shared with us specifically, like, stem cell therapy where they come and inject it into your body
Right,
to
I'm
help
no
restore.
doctor. I'm not a doctor. These are just
Yeah.
things I've read. These are just things
Right.
I've read that I've come across that,
Yeah.
these are little
Yeah.
breadcrumbs that lead me to take steps
Mm-hmm.
and take action to try to turn things around. And that's really what all this is about trying to be open to the
Right.
possibility and always looking for ways to turn things around. And, you know, in the last 9, 10 months, I'm in much better condition. I'm more mobile than I was. I have very little pain. I still have a little stiffness and tightness, but my nerves are trying to figure out how to release. And then I just purchased a newbie neurostimulation machine that's going to retrain my nerves
Mm-hmm.
through neuroplasticity to find new connections. Our body is, we are completely able to make new connections. That's neuroplasticity. It's finding new ways.
So let me ask you, I had some stomach issues, like long haul COVID, issue where I had like that. It was almost like a stomach paralysis, like my stomach wasn't opening, so I couldn't eat. And one of the things that I saw it was that they had some sort of device that they could put inside of your stomach, which I wasn't at the point that I needed that, but I'm just doing some research. But prior to that, the guest who she's a psychologist, but she teaches chanting to stimulate the vagus nerve, which then, right, causes, you can control the inflammation of your body. And so one of the things that she sent me was some small, just chants. There's like 5 minute chants, and it worked.
When I was at OHI 20 years ago,
Hmm.
I chanted into each of my chakras.
Yeah.
It was called toning. And so
Yes.
I hummed or chanted the frequency of each of
Hmm.
those,
Each of them.
and that helped heal my body, and it helped. And when you say heal your body, I mean, it's all about bringing the body back into balance, you know,
Hmm.
and letting the body get back in touch with its natural rhythms. That newbie machine that I just told you, that I just mentioned, that does stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight and makes the muscles go, but it also stimulates the parasympathetic. And the parasympathetic is that all the vagus nerve processes, all the processes of, respiration, um, digestion,
Hmm.
elimination, just that whole process that is on autopilot, you know,
Mm.
and and so
Wow. Yeah. I
and
see
so,
it working. I believe it.
yeah, yeah, and so you mentioned that, and so that is, I know that healing is not just about the sympathetic; it's also the parasympathetic, which is
Right.
behind the scenes, you know,
Hmm.
and so, and it's like a therapist, a physical therapist who tries to repeatedly do the same thing again and again to get the function back in the muscles. But at the
Right.
same time, underneath all that, there's some neurological processing that needs
Right.
to be happening at the same time and stimulated. And these functional techniques may not always stimulate these neurological
Right.
processes that the body needs. And you need both. You need both.
Let me ask you something. When you were avoiding and in denial, and you said you were almost taunting your body in some way or this disease. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you were getting healthy and strong by doing all of these things, but were you really loving your body? Were you really in a relationship with your body as you are today?
No, no, I was really detached from my body. I
Yeah.
my very detached from my body, and it was just the vessel that was taking me through my day. And
Hmm.
I ate okay, you know. I exercised like crazy. I mean, but I didn't have the seven things that I needed to have in balance to have my life in balance. It, when I was diagnosed, it was all about work hard, so it's a good job, make a lot of money, you know. Um,
Hmm.
those were the two biggest things. Have a strong mind, and like the rational mind could solve everything, but that's not in touch with the emotion, and
Right.
intuition.
Right.
Have a good job. You know, those were the four things, and I was like trying to
Hmm.
maximize those four things, and I did, but it also put me in a ditch.
Right. So listening to your body, that discernment, whether it is physically or spiritually for myself anyways, has been like a superpower for me. I mean, it's like, as soon as something comes over me, I want to sit with it and kind of talk to it.
But I talked to my MS. That's part of my story. I mean,
Yeah.
I did, you know, I talked to MS. I wasn't angry or there was no animosity. That's not the way to heal.
You never were in the beginning, even?
No, I was scared. I was just
Right.
scared. I wasn't angry,
Yeah.
and because I had to listen to
Hmm.
what it was trying to teach me. And again, it's not me being angry. Anger doesn't do anyone anything. It's a
Right.
release, but it really doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't. And it's again, that's wasted energy. So emotion,
Right.
that's at the emotional vibrant. And so if you're wasting energy at the emotional vibrant by spewing anger, you're leaking energy.
Hmm.
And it takes a lot of consciousness to figure out, okay, how do I be with this so that it serves me?
Yeah. Well, how do you love your body that is fighting itself?
Right, right, right. Like love is the answer to a fight. What? Love is not the answer to a fight. Is it? Maybe it is. I don't know.
I realized over the past few years that I'm very affected by the solar flares, and humans are actually. But I had it in my head, John, that this was like the worst thing that's happening. Like, why the sun is terrible. It kills me. My energy is drained. I can't sleep. I'm cranky. The world is all acting crazy, and I'm blaming everything on these damn solar flares.
Right, the electromagnetic energy, right?
Yeah, coming into our field. So someone had suggested to me, maybe you should try to align with the energy of the sun rather than try to resist it. Colorado has about as beautiful sunsets as anywhere. And so I just sat with it, sat with its energy, stopped resisting it. As I did, it was like I felt free.
I sun gazed. I
You
stared at
did?
the sun during my healing. So
Ooh.
I had a watch so that I can measure the UV radiation. I made sure I did
Okay.
it times of the day, which is,
Hmm.
you know, starting an hour before sunset, the UV radiation drops to zero. So I knew I was doing it at the right times of the day that wouldn't damage my optic nerve. Um,
Okay.
and so staring at the sun really helps to normalize hormones and bring the body back in balance. And so, again, that's what my healing journey started 20 years ago, was trying to figure out how to get my body back in balance because I was a top or a record. I was a record spinning at 45 when I should have been spinning at 30 RPMs, and I was spinning just way too fast. And so how do I bring my body back in balance? Well, I
Hmm.
bring it in balance eating all the right foods, stopping the sugar, stopping the gluten. Gluten is wheat protein. It's tough for the body to metabolize, and
Hmm.
it can create um, unwanted consequences in our digestive system. And so things like dairy, casein, which is the protein in dairy, also creates a hard time for the body.
Hmm.
So
As I get older, I can tell that.
I've so I've just had to learn all the things that don't serve me. And
Mhm.
that's the game of life. It's more important to figure out what you don't like and what doesn't
Mhm.
serve you than what you
Yeah.
do like and what does serve you.
Mm.
Or it's equally as important. Both are very important, you know?
Do they know what causes MS?
So, your question is what causes the body to attack itself? And, you know, yes, they know. They do know. There's something in the gut. Okay. And, there's research that's come out of the University of California, San Francisco, that talks about, you know, MS patients having different gut bacteria
Mhm.
and healthy people. And so something shifts in the
Mhm.
gut
Mhm.
of people with MS. But then you take that point further and the medical community knows that all health, well, no, it's starting to know that all health begins in the gut. And so if something goes haywire in the gut, that's what causes it to go haywire in the body. And I think people know it. Whether it has actually been clinically studied and trialed to prove it, that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened.
Because if it's just a matter of diet and chanting, you'll never know.
Right, which I follow someone, Dr. Terry Walls, who has MS. She had secondary progressive MS, 14 years ago, was in a recumbent wheelchair. And,
Mhm.
and now she is teaching her body to jog again.
Wow.
And that's from the age of, you know, 54 to 68, and, she's doing amazing work to
Mhm.
demystify MS. She's doing amazing work to demystify her MS. And it's trailblazers like her
Mhm.
that are gonna change the medical community, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the medical community hangs on and holds on to what they
Mhm.
know works, which you don't fault them for that because it's do no harm and you have to do things
Right.
that work. And so, some of these things are outside what has been clinically proven and accepted,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that it's not valid.
And they often are just addressing the symptoms and not and never looking for the root cause, which I'm just that type of person. You know, if I hear something, I'm like, where did that come from? How did it get there?
Right,
You
right,
know, what is the root of this?
right. And the typical that's true, because that's what we want as patients is we do like they're not wrong. Doctors aren't
Right.
wrong because we go to them and say,
Mhm.
fix this, fix this
Right.
stuff.
Here's my power. You fix this.
And we're not we're not paying them to heal you. We're not. That would
Mhm.
what it would take. Like, if you want to get in a relationship with a doctor around healing, then
Mhm.
you're going to need to pay a functional medical doctor. I mean, I've got a functional medical team, and they're helping me heal from the inside out.
That's right.
And it's a longer relationship. It's more
Mhm.
costly. Yes, but we can't blame the medical community because we're not paying them to heal us. We're paying them to fix our symptom in the moment. I've got this,
Right.
fix me. Okay.
You
Well, that
have to be your own advocate. You have to be your greatest cheerleader.
too. the responsibility does not lie with the doctors.
Right.
Responsibility does not lie with the medical community. They're not
Right.
responsible for keeping us healthy. They're not.
Yeah, we've been seeking everything outside of us, right? We seek religion outside of us, forgiveness, love, and healing. And I have found that all those things are right here in you.
Yes. Shanna, you nailed that. You nailed that. I talk about that a lot too. It's not external. We're not, it's the answer is not finding the fountain of youth, you know, is the
Mhm.
cure to MS is not going to be a pill, I don't think. If there's one thing I've learned from Dr. Terry Walls, the cure to MS is lifestyle change and
Wow.
change all your inputs. If you change all your inputs, you change the output. It's that simple. You know, garbage in, garbage out. It's a computer axiom, where if you put bad data into a system, you're going to get bad data out.
Mhm.
I developed software,
Right.
and so if we're the exact same way. If you
Mhm.
put bad stuff in, you can't expect to get good stuff out. Can you?
Right. Static. No.
No, right? I mean, right? I mean, doesn't it hold that in order for you to get good stuff out, you have to put good stuff in. That's like it's not easy. It is. Okay,
It is.
it's an easy thought, but
Yeah, but
it's the difficulty is actualizing that and making that happen, especially with all of the external demands of culture telling us, oh, you should do this. This is fun. This is good. This tastes good. Oh, wow, you should do this.
right. This is affordable,
Right. This is
right?
easy.
You know, I just had on Brett Casper. He wrote Political Gut, and you should listen to that episode.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's fighting a huge monster, right? And so I think that by the end of that episode, how I felt was again, I cannot trust that they're going to, create a whole new system with healthier food. I have to take my own responsibility, right? I can't trust that they're going to take out some of these very toxic things that I'm feeding myself, my children. I have to do it myself because that's the only way I would, I mean, I need to learn how to be self-sufficient in growing food and, making choices, even if it is a little bit more expensive to go to like a natural grocery. How much are you going to end up spending on your health down the road? I mean, I remember chicken nuggets in a styrofoam box. I mean, I remember that I was on my way to New Orleans. It was like the new thing. And I was like, these are the best things,
Chicken crack in a box. That's so good.
right? Ooh. But you're right. Your body actually will tell you, especially as you get older. Isn't it interesting how much we could do when we're younger? I mean, you could party all night long, not sleep, and get up and go to work like it's nothing.
Your
You
body
can eat
burn it. Your
all
body
day.
burns it. Yeah, yeah. Body just burns it.
Yeah. But it's listening to your body. I didn't listen to my body. It was about a year ago. Was it? Yeah. I had, well, I think I probably had COVID, but it was showing up negative. And I ended up because I kept going, like you, right? I kept going, I kept working, and I talk for a living. And so I got laryngitis, and it was forever laryngitis. And I kept popping ibuprofen because it would take down the inflammation. I could talk for an hour. I was good. And the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital with acute ulcer colitis.
Oh,
And what came from that actually was a miracle because I had to cleanse because I had to do a colonoscopy. I hadn't ate anything in 4 days while I was in the hospital. And I come out, I had been trying to clean, I hadn't been here in 4 days. Like, oh my God, my house is a disaster. Don't you guys know how to do anything around here? And they're like, sit down, sit down. I'm like, no, I have more energy than I ever had. And I hadn't slept or ate in 4 days. But I had rid of all that, all those toxins that was keeping me in this fatigue, fogged place. I felt like brand new.
At the end of my 4 month detox and cleanse,
Yeah.
chai 20 years ago, I felt like someone shot me out of a cannon. I went in
Yes.
shuffling my feet like an 80-year-old man. I went in like that, and my mind was cloudy, and
Mm-hmm.
my body was stiff and sore. And I
Yeah.
went out, as a limber 16-year-old ready to take on life, and that
Yeah.
was 20 years ago. And now I'm trying to figure out what in that can I use in this next process,
Mm-hmm.
because this next process is I need to rebuild my body in a different way. I need to get
Yeah.
a lot more protein,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more healthy fat, and I need to reduce the sugar to cut the inflammation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just, raw food and that whole process worked for me 20 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a different season in my
Right.
life, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not holding tight to that old way of being,
Mm-hmm.
because my body is in a different
Stage. Yeah.
stage and it needs different stuff to make it strong
Mm-hmm.
and keep it healthy. And so, like, I'm not wedded to any one protocol. I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to feed my body so that I can live a great life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are the symptoms that you experience with MS?
That I experience now, like, that's like,
Is it a spectrum?
I've had so many symptoms.
Yeah.
I mean, there's varying degrees of like paralysis and soreness and inflammation, so I really know what it feels like for my body to be inflamed. And
Mm-hmm.
so when my body's inflamed, it's like there's static, you know, like static running in the background all the time,
Mm-hmm.
so that my nerves aren't sending signals to my muscles and processing information crisply. That's one symptom, and minor, paralysis, my legs don't work the way they should,
Mm-hmm.
but it's coming back. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing things in physical therapy that I couldn't do 2 months ago. I'm like, and my therapists are like, oh my God, that they're like, Jon, you're like an MS unicorn. There's 6 doctors, there's 6 ways to keep your physical body in shape, which is
Mm-hmm.
food, water, exercise, sleep, sunshine, and breathing. Those are the 6 things that, if you understand where they are, that's your physical vibrant, your emotional vibrant, it's your feeling energy. And
Yeah.
where are you allowing that feeling energy to go? And just, and all the other energies,
Right.
will, desire, working out of that rather than obligation, I mean, so.
Yeah. And if you're so busy, sometimes you forget to breathe. You
Right,
forget to drink water that day. You're
right,
not eating right. So
right,
you're losing all of the things that give you life.
right. And it's just giving voice to all these energies,
Yeah.
because that's what we are. That's all our life experience really is, you know?
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah.
Do you feel like you live life much richer and more in the present moment, knowing that impermanence, right? That life could change at any moment.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So much more. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I try to be as present as possible. I try to live in the moment. Yeah, I do plan things out. I plan things out in my calendar, because I gotta work, I gotta run my day. You know,
Wow, that's impressive.
I, I do run my day, but I don't do too much planning ahead. You
Yeah,
know,
one day at a
some,
time.
there are some things on the schedule, but it's what's important for me to make a priority for tomorrow, and I'll figure that out. And whereas before, like, I used to have everything so planned out to the minute, you know, before it happened. And I try to really pack my day to get the most out of my day, and
Yeah.
really push myself. But now I'm kind of backing off myself. And there's certain
Mhm.
rocks that I've put in my day that I have to take care of. But
Yeah.
it's more of, focus on what comes, what needs to be priority, because what's really priority tomorrow may be different than what I think it is right now.
My dad worked himself to death, you know, and I know that many people know my dad as being such a hard worker, and I am too. I have a lot of that in me, and I really have to stop myself from working 24 hours a day because I would. It's hard to find that balance, but I mean, he was shorted half of his life, because he worked so hard and he was too busy, and it led to many heart problems. He didn't know how to breathe. It's one of the reasons why I fell into my journey because I was like, he had no tools, right? He had no tools for stress, anxiety, and it came down to it. I just was like, man, I need to learn some tools to get this stress under control, besides the medication I was on for 7 years, because that just numbed it.
Right.
It was still there. I don't think that's living, working and paying bills and working and paying bills. And, I don't think that that's life. Life is so beautiful. I mean, you miss nature, when you're busy. Nature's been my greatest teacher. Or you surrender to MS or cancer
Right.
disease.
Right. Right. And I got no surrender in me.
I believe you.
No surrender.
You'll
No.
go down fighting.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
I'll go down trying to find an answer. Like, I'm
Yeah.
always running the angles. I'm always, is it a step forward? Is it a
Right.
step back? Is it a step up?
Hmm.
Is it a step down? You know,
Right.
which direction, do I need
Hmm.
to go this way? Do I need to zag down here? What do I need
Right.
to do to constantly get my life going in an upward trajectory? Because life can go like this, and
Hmm.
be all over. And so, how do we get life? There is a way to get life to go like this, you know, and
Hmm.
and that's what I do with clients. I work with these seven vibrants and help people get more conscious about how they're living their life and how they're
Yeah.
using these energies,
Your seven vibrants are for anything in life. Can you go over them one more time? I mean, it could be for illness, it could be just for you to plan your day, it could be for your whole entire life.
Right. They're like a compass. They're like an operating
Yeah.
system. The seven vibrants are your native background operating system running your life.
Mhm.
And the seven are physical,
Okay.
and I've talked about that. We've talked
Right.
about emotional. We've talked about professional. We've talked about financial. It's at the heart chakra.
Mm.
Financial, you're like, financial at the heart, money at the heart,
Oh.
love, right? What's that? No, it's authentic love and service at the heart and not trying to contrive or manipulate. Okay. And so when you
Mhm.
serve authentically out of love and service and don't try to manipulate or contrive, you'll get the outcome you want, you know? And if there's an even open exchange, both parties will get what they want, you know? And that's why there's also a lot of inherent trust here. That is the key energy or currency at this financial vibrant.
Right. Like giving and exchanging and receiving.
Right. And trust. And so why do relationships go back? Well, because trust. It's
Right.
it's so simple, and then, the next is social, the words at the throat,
Mm.
and the words attract or repel people. There's some people who say divisive, nasty, mean things.
Right.
They think that's the right way. Well, if I hear that, that does not attract me. I run from that, you know?
Hmm.
And so my words and how I use them to interact and attract people are very important. And then the mind, you know, are your words positive, or negative? What time state are you in? Are you in the past, the present,
Hmm.
or the future? Are you solution focused? Are you trying to run the angles of all the steps, right, left, right, trying to run the angles rather than thinking, oh no, I know the way. The ego can be a big enemy. It can be, and then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other energy is connection, which is spiritual.
Wow.
And that's what, like, the essence, like, come on, the essence of spiritual is
Yeah.
connection. That's all we
Mhm.
want as people. Like, like when we're on our
Yeah.
death, we're not thinking about how much money we got. We're not. We're thinking about the people we love. We're thinking about the connection that we have, and that's really what makes it all worthwhile.
That's beautiful. I didn't know that they were aligned with the chakras. I think that that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
they are.
amazing how many things, and like you also mentioned, the different vibrations and toning that you can do.
It's a frequency.
Hmm.
Each chakra,
Yeah, has its own vibe.
some vibration and energy, just like each vibrant has its own frequency, and
Right.
and they and so you also see in my graphics, they each have a color, and
Hmm.
so it aligns with the color of that frequency of that chakra. So
Yeah.
red, orange, yellow, green, blue.
And yeah, blue, indigo,
Go
violet.
violet. Yeah, sorry.
If we are vibration and we are energy, then it is that heals us as well. I mean, of course, I have found that much of nature has all the answers, when it comes to healing. Like it's like, because we're the same. We
Yep.
are the same. And when you were talking, I was imagining, and I'm sure have you seen the picture before where it's like the lungs and all of its nerves look just like trees and the
The,
roots?
like the trees itself and the branches, but also like the roots. Yeah, right. All the branches. Right.
Amazing.
All the patterns, all the patterns are there. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just we
Yeah,
just
and then you also think like those great old trees, that have gone through so many storms. I have this one picture in Plaquemines Parish. I had visited there during my ancestry, and it was like the hugest tree I've ever seen in my entire life. And it had been uprooted, and the roots were insane. I mean, it finally gave way, and that tree had to have been 1,000 years old. I mean, they know when to let go. And also, they go through their cycles, as we do.
They know when to bend and they know when to break, you know?
Yeah.
I
Isn't
mean,
that amazing?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But and I also think it gives hope that, like yourself, there's been times where you've gone up and down in this journey,
totally,
you know,
totally.
and that's okay. That's much as life is. I'm so excited for you to see what you're gonna do next.
I am too. It's amazing. I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
published my 10th anniversary edition, which
Nice.
I've got an epilogue, that kind of brings people up to speed on my last 20 years. I'm also in the process of another book, which is my current healing journey, which
Yeah.
is like, you think I learned stuff the first time? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I have so much wisdom, the fear, I don't have the fear. Like,
Mhm.
yes, there's moments of doubt, but it's gonna happen. It may not happen at the time frame that I want, but it
Yeah.
is happening. And I am healing.
I believe that, there's been so many limitations that have been put on us. We only, like, even when it comes down to our senses, you only have this many senses. You only have this, you only have that, you only live to this, you have, and it's like they took our power away with all those limitations. So I love that you're kind of reclaiming that, and I believe in you.
Thank you. I am
Yeah,
doing it, and this has been a wonderful conversation. It's been awesome.
thank you. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me at Vibrant, VIBRANTU, the letter U. So Vibrant U Academy, ACADEMY.com.
Awesome.
Or get my book Shadow Summit. It's on Amazon, and get the audiobook version. Um,
Oh, you have that? Oh, that's good.
I read it. So it's my voice. Um,
So cool.
yeah, and so that's me.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah, I really appreciate our time. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sense of soul.